Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me on this call, Austin. I'm so excited to talk to you about your story. You have toured with AJR, you've toured with Jade Bird, you toured with Robert Delong. Those are, I'm sure, a lot of people's like dreams. And a lot of people would say that at that point, if they were doing that, like they think they'd made it. I'm just kind of curious off the bat, like how are you doing? How do you feel about that? Do you feel like you've made it?
Yeah, I think it's weird because like I actually remember when because I had just sort of like I had been trying to get into the music side of things as far as like shooting and like photo and video stuff. I've been trying to get into it for like 5 years because when I discovered it when I was 19, I was like, okay, like I'm obsessed with this and like this is the only world I want to get into. And I had kept my head down for so long and just kept working, kept grinding, kept hustling. And it actually wasn't until I was on tour with the Lumineers and we had a show in Nashville, and at the time Jade Bird and her boyfriend were in Nashville for like a day, and I was like, oh, like I want to go and see them and say hi to them. And I had like taken like a 30-minute Uber to their Airbnb. And they're like packing their stuff up. They're like, hey, we're actually headed to the airport. Like, we're so sorry we missed up the time. And I was like, oh, it's okay. So I got in the Uber with them. And it's funny because as we were talking, Jade had looked at me and she was like, hey, like, do you feel like you've made it yet? And she was the one asking me that. And I was like, I've never really thought about it. And she was like, dude, you're doing arenas. Like you're doing
Yeah.
like photo and video for an arena gig. And like that's like a 4-person job and it's just you.
That's crazy. Do you think she felt like your job was cooler than hers?
I think maybe in like that moment, because she obviously like wants to, grow bigger and get to that, to that next stage. But I could tell that she was really happy for me. And I think it was just a genuine question of like, because she had seen me of like all people, she was sort of like my first tour, and she had seen me go from her to Hozier to AJR to Lumineers and sort of keep getting this like ladder. And so it was cool for her to like also witness that, I guess success or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't
man,
it,
that's
it
success.
wasn't yeah, it wasn't until that moment where like I remember picking my head up and going like, I think so. I still don't know yet because I've just been, like I said, like I'm just so used to keeping my head down and working and working and working. And so like I never really thought about if I'd made it yet. I just thought, okay, cool. Like I've now gotten to the next, like stage or whatever. Like, let's see how much farther I can go from here. And I just kept going and I didn't really think about it. But that day I did think about it.
And yeah, got it. So you just hadn't really thought about it because you've just been going. Right now, you're in between a tour. You're in between tours. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is this your first break in a while, or what's being at home like?
No, I mean, if you want to consider, the pandemic a break, because that definitely was a huge break.
Fair enough.
Which is funny because like I was the 2020, I was supposed to be on the road from February of 2020 to November of 2020. I was literally supposed to be on the entire road, jumping from Lumineers to AJR and like back and forth throughout the entire year, which is crazy. And then I ended up doing nothing. But yeah, I just got off a tour doing all like the Jingle Ball shows with AJR, and that was in December. And then October, November, nothing. And then September, I did a whole month run with the AJR guys. And then in the summer, I worked on a music video with them. And then before that, not a whole lot.
And you're starting
But
back up here in Texas, right? Is that where the tour starts?
yeah, for AJR it does. Yeah, it starts in April. It starts in April. We have the schedule now, and we have like the first like 3 or 4 days of rehearsal are in Dallas, which is funny because that's where I'm originally from. So I'll just be, crashing at my mom's place. And then, yeah, and then we'll have like the second official show in what used to be Austin 360, but it's now like the Germania insurance, whatever, amphitheater. But yeah, that's like the second official show is in Austin.
Are you currently in Austin?
Yeah, I'm on.
I totally thought you were in Dallas. I would have totally have loved to do this in person, but Omicron's going crazy right now. So
No, it's
anyway.
okay. No, dude, no, it's totally fine. I'm in where am I? I'm at my girlfriend's place. She's off of do you know where like the Target is off 35?
Yeah, I do.
Like going
Oh,
north.
there's
I'm
like
like
several targets though on 35, to be honest.
it's the one like with like the Capitol Plaza sign or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's like one of the first Targets you see like coming into the city. I'm like right
From
behind that.
Dallas, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. No, yeah. My girlfriend kind of works up there. It's about an hour drive for her, though. We live in Kyle now. We moved 20 minutes into
Oh
the
wow.
suburbs. Yeah, living the suburb life right now.
Oh wow, dude,
Feels
you're
really
super
weird.
south,
Yeah,
right? Is it Kyle south or north?
it's south. It's south. It's
Okay, yeah.
I'm right on the edge of like Buda and Kyle.
That's right. Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, it's either Buda or Manchaca, like one of those two, like is in that vicinity.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I never thought I'd be here, to be honest. We were just living on Soko on the river, and it was awesome. And now we're like, we hear crows and we hear roosters and like horses.
Why'd y'all move? Just because just so much cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper, and because I moved from freelancing to getting a full time, I was able to get a loan, and we got a house together.
Oh,
So it was a
dude, that's
pretty huge
amazing.
move.
That's so huge.
Thank you so much. I honestly still can't, like, I feel like it hasn't sunk in yet. Like, we moved and, like, it was like the holidays and we were just like, and I'm traveling a lot for work. And just like, I haven't had that moment where I'm like, holy shit. Like, I don't know. Maybe to some people it's not a big deal, but like, we just never thought it was possible for like another 10 years.
Dude, no, that's a huge accomplishment. Like that is, I mean, if not like part of the American dream is like getting your own house. That's awesome. Congrats,
Yeah,
man.
thank you so much. Yeah, and my parents or brought us here from Mexico, so it was like it's a big deal for me to have like been able, gotten lucky enough to be able to go to college, and then now like having a house is just like a massive thing for them that hopefully um, feels to them like it was worth it in a way, like feel some sort of like relief that like maybe like at least one out of the three of their children so far a little more settled and like there's less uncertainty of whether or not we'll be okay.
Yeah,
I
we're
can
in
still
Mexico.
go and gamble it all later, but yeah, we're from Monterrey. It's North
Okay,
Mexico.
cool.
Have you been down there?
I used to live in Mexico City for like 9 years.
Oh, what?
Um,
9 years?
yeah,
Wait, do you
yeah.
speak Spanish?
I
You
used to speak
must.
it like pretty fluently. So I grew up in Mexico when I was like less than a year old, and then I left. Our family moved when I was like 9 and a half, and then we moved to Dallas. And I remember there was like a kid who sat next to me, and it was first day of class, and I started speaking Spanish to him, and he like freaked out, and he was like, why are you speaking Spanish to me? Because I just thought that he spoke
Yeah.
Spanish. And he was like, the new kid speaking Spanish to me. He thought I was Mexican, blah. And I got so embarrassed. Like I stopped speaking Spanish for like
No.
3 years.
Oh
And
man.
so, yeah. And so by the time I got to like, middle school and could take a Spanish class, like I had forgotten so much of it because I stopped speaking it. And so, I mean, I can still read it and write it. And like, I can have like a mild conversation and still retain like some of like what you're saying. But I did forget probably like 80% of it, like 70 or 80% of it.
Do your
Yeah.
parents speak Spanish?
Yeah, fluently. Yeah. My dad's from Colombia. And then my mom, yeah, she speaks it fluently. Both of my sisters speak it fluently. I'm the only one that
Yeah. What do
I'm
they
kind of like the
think?
black sheep.
What do they think? Or what did they think when you told them you're going to be doing concert photography and concert videography? Especially like you said, I mean, like your parents, also traveling from other countries. Like, did they did they like have a different image for what their son was?
It it's interesting because like, I definitely like I technically didn't start taking photos until after we graduated from UT. Like I didn't even really have like I had a camera, but it was like a camera that I got in high school. Like I'd only been taking photos for about 4 years now or something like that, which is kind of crazy to think about. And, video was the one thing that it was like my strong suit. I was like, oh, like I can do video really well.
Yes, I heard
And
that on your one of your YouTube stories, one of your YouTube posts. I think you said that you picked up photography because you knew you had to, since you were already doing video stuff. They were going to ask for it, I guess.
yeah, that they were going to ask for it because I was like, oh, I can do your merchandise too. And like, I know that they're going to ask for photos like every now and then. So I'm like, all right, I have to learn how to take photos or I'm screwed. But yeah, when I told my parents, they were like, they definitely, they were both like championing the idea that like, oh, like, you definitely should be doing something camera related because we feel like you're talented at that.
That's
So,
awesome.
you should go for it. But then, it started getting to the point where I graduated college and moved back home and like nothing was really happening. And you know, I had done like a few big things. Like there was like a Robert Delong music video that I did with David Perella and Maria
Yeah.
Forsyth. And and like that was like a huge thing. And like that got me to one thing to do with Jade. And then I did like a 10-day run with Jade and made like a whole video out of it. And then after that, nothing happened. And like I was trying so hard to get on the road. And my parents were like, now at this time, I'm like turning 24. So it's now like 2 years have gone by and like I haven't really been able to like get my foot into the door of like, hitting the road and,
Yeah.
making these travel documentary
I'll be honest, I
videos.
wanted to do the same thing. And at 24, I think that's when I was like, I'm going to give up. Like, I'm going to just like focus on gripping.
Yeah, dude. And like I was getting pretty damn close to that because like nothing was really happening. And I was emailing and I was trying so damn hard. And like I had known a few bands now. Like I had done some stuff with Hippocampus and like I was trying really hard to get on board with them and like nothing was really working. And I my parents are split up and like they both wanted to have like a lunch or like a dinner with me, which was insanely rare because like that's like I can only count on like one hand like how many times my parents have like had a meal together like since their divorce. And so I was like, oh, I guess this is a pretty big deal. And they both were, although albeit they were supportive, they were both like, all of a sudden like my dad sort of turned and my dad was like this is really dumb, what you're doing is really dumb and this is super bohemian and you need to like grow up and blah 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 blah. And he was really harsh about it. And my mom was more like sweet about it. She's like, I just don't understand, like, even if you get a job on the road, like does that tour last for a whole year or like how
Right.
long does it last for?
Just
Like
can't like
do you
wrap
get,
their head around like how stable this
yeah,
is, like
like
is
is there
as a
is there
career.
insurance?
Mhm.
Yeah, like is there insurance? What happens if you get hurt? Do you have to pay for it? Did they cover it? How much are you getting paid? Like can you
Right.
actually can you pay rent and
Yeah.
be out on the road? Like how
Your mom's
sustainable is
thinking
this
very logically. I think
actually?
that's what like most people would think, even people who are maybe thinking about getting into that. Like all
Hmm.
those, I think, are pretty fair questions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like all great questions. And I sat there and I was like, yeah, I can't answer any of these because I don't know and I don't know what to tell you. And so then it just got to the point where I was like, look, I just want to get on one tour. if I can do one tour, I'll have had my fix and I'll never talk about doing this again. And I literally said this. I was like, I'll come back to Austin and I'll find an editing job. I'll get a dog and I'll call it a day. Like that's like the goal. Now the goal is to do one tour and get out and like be done and find a real job. And so like I finally got on Jade's first tour. And my main job was doing merch because everybody needs like a merch person. But obviously like with that, I was like running like to the stage and like shooting and like running back to merch, making sure no one steals anything and like running back.
Contact to get that?
Her manager. And that was after I had done that first video with them, right. And they really liked it. And the main issue was just like there wasn't a huge budget. And they knew that, and they're like, "Hey, like we're trying really hard to make sure that we can pay you like a little bit of money, and blah 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 blah." And like, and it got to the point where I was like, "All right, I'm gonna give up my like little studio apartment in Austin, and I'm gonna like go do this tour." And then after I'm done touring, like I'll come back to Austin, I'll find roommates, and I'll figure it out. And the tour was like 6 weeks. It was like her first headline tour. And that was the tour that I had you out for the Antone's show. So like it was just very DIY, like very small, and like none of us knew what we were doing. Like we were all doing it for the first time, like including Jade, like all of us on that tour.
That was the first show?
It wasn't the first show, but it was the first like tour that everybody in the band and crew like were doing for the very first time. Nobody had any experience. So we were all, you know, and it's funny because like going to a tour now, there are so many rules that you have to, there's so many things, so many like things that you have to follow and do, and like protocols, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that tour, like none of us knew what we were doing. So we were just making everything up as we were going along. But yeah, so that tour that you would come out to Antone's, that was our first like run, and none of us really knew what we were doing. That's so crazy. Fast forward to the end of that tour, and Robert Delong, who was like my only person of contact who I'd been dying to tour with for like 5 years because I had snuck into all of the South by shows, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He finally was like, "Hey man, like I've got a new EP coming out. Like I'm doing this tour and I'm opening up for this band called AJR, and like we're gonna have some of our own headline shows in between. There's finally a seat on the bus for you." Like that's what he said, because he'd known for a long time. Like I had been dying to work and like just been dying to be on the road with him.
How long was it between the Jade Bird show and when Robert DeLong hit me up? Oh, the end of the Jade Bird tour.
Yeah, it was like a week after, and like his tour was starting, like literally like a week. So it had worked out perfectly. Like the timing had worked out perfectly. And I was finally like, oh my God, like I've been waiting 5 years to get that call from you. I was like, yes, like absolutely yes. So like get on that tour, work so hard. It was such a hard tour. And you know, like saw the AGR guys, saw that they didn't have anybody, and like I asked them if I could shoot some shows for them in between, and they said sure. And like so I was doing both shows and like merchandise, and by the end of that tour, like they had pulled me aside and they're like, "Hey, like we really like you and we really like your work. Like we would love to work with you next year." To which obviously I was like, of course. And then at the end of that tour, Jade wanted me to go with her to her headline tour in the UK. So I literally flew from the end of that tour from like Arizona to New York, and then from New York to London, and then spent like 3 or 4 weeks with them there. And then I finally came home after like an entire, like essentially like a fall semester, like from August to December, like I was gone, and I was like, wow, like I did it and I'm done. Like there's nothing else that I can do except wait, next August or next September to work with AJR. And then Jade got the opening slot for Hozier, which was like a month later. Get on the Hozier slot, and then the same shit happened. Like I was working really hard, and then their photographer, who's like really talented and he's like really famous, like kind of just like he missed like a lot of the shows, and then like I think he wanted to move camps, and they had asked me to fill in for a few shows, and I had obviously like shot them, and like I shot them for free. I was like, cool, like I get to shoot Hozier, like this is sick.
Yeah.
And then yeah, then they were like, hey, like we want you to come on like Hozier's camp and like work with us, and then did that, and then went back to Jade and did that with Father John Misty and Jason Isbell, and then after that went straight to AJR. And you can kind of see like none of it stopped. Like it just kept like snowballing. And then it all finally stopped when I was with Lumineers, and it was March of 2020. And then and then the whole world stopped.
Oh man. Right in the middle of Lumineers, Lumineers tour. That was a crazy story. I think it's crazy how much work you were doing, especially during the Robert DeLong AJR tour. You were bouncing back and forth shooting for both of them. How, like, if you don't mind sharing, like, what was like surviving like during all that time? Like only the Robert team is paying you, and you're trying to balance like all the work and all the travel. Like, how much is like paid for by the like touring, by the management, by the bands, by the artists, and how much are you putting out every day?
So this one's really tough to say, because like I feel like I can say it now. Like I don't know, like, you know, if anybody from like Robert's camp will see this or watch
we'll
this.
Take it down.
Yeah, but like it like, and I'm so pro, honestly, because like I want to be able to answer this stuff. Like at the time, there's only so much money that can go around when it comes to like touring, because it, for the most part, and I feel like a lot of people don't actually know this, but most bands, when they go on tour, they lose money. Like honestly, like even bands a lot bigger than you think go on tour losing money, and like it that's just part of it. Like it's an investment, so you're hoping that you put a lot of money into like this production and big crews or whatever, and you try to do so amazing in front of these shows that you're banking on that the next time you come to Austin, Dallas, Milwaukee, Jacksonville, you're hoping that you will have doubled your venue size, or at least like a quarter of it or whatever, because you're hoping that the people that saw that show will then come back with a friend, you know? Because like, I don't know about you, but if you see a show that you wanted to go see and you really liked it, you're going to think to yourself, I can't wait to see them when they come back.
Right.
And when they come back, 9 out of 10 times, they're going to come back to a bigger venue, because they're banking on you coming back to that show and bringing somebody or whatever. And they're hoping that they'll have gotten bigger or whatever. So the budget wasn't a lot for me. So I wasn't getting paid. I definitely was like the lowest paid one on his crew. But as far as like, you know, travel expenses and food, we do get per diem. So, you know, food was always covered. And if we were like opening for like a bigger band such as AJR, I'm trying to remember, there was catering, I think, or no. For like when we opened up for Hozier, like there was like catering. So we would have like some of catering, and we would save like our per diem money. And then anything else that we were making, like, you know, you obviously, like I would just try to save it, and then any sort of travel expense. So like if I had to get into an Uber to go to the airport, and I had to also spend like $60 on bags or whatever, save all the receipts, and then that just gets sent to whoever's paying you. So like, be it either the label or management, whoever's taking care of it, you send that to them so that they can write it off. Like on the bands, like, you know, because like you would think of like Jade Bird as like Jade Bird the company, or like AJR the company. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That makes sense. And you're okay. So then coming out of a tour, then how much, like, are you able to spend some time in between? Do you just try to supplement your income in between tour? I mean, you haven't had a lot of time in between tours, like you said.
Yeah.
But like we did have, you know, like you said, the pandemic.
Yeah.
Or like, did you have a backup plan for like supplementing income in between tours, like music videos or just photography somewhere here?
I'm gonna be so honest with you. I've been I've been really lucky as far as my time goes between tours, especially since the pandemic. Because what some of the bands that I worked with, they because we were supposed to have work with them throughout the year, some of the bands that I worked with, they basically had they contacted the crew and they were like, hey, like we we obviously can't still pay you guys, but what we can do is we can pay like half of your rate for the next like 6 weeks or whatever, and like to get you by or whatever, to get you through. And so I had a couple of spurts of that, which was really nice, like income coming in. And on top of that, it was also just like because remember, I had like given up my studio apartment in Austin. So for from August of 2018 to March of 2020, I was technically homeless and I wasn't living anywhere. And from everything that I was earning and making from, like per diem to like my weekly rate to like anything extra like on the side, I was just putting away and saving. And I didn't have a lot of bills. So I was just putting everything into my savings account. So by the time the pandemic hit, I had like, I had like a good, chunk of money like saved up, and like I didn't want to burn through it, but I also was like, in a really weird way, I had already prepared myself for like, if a pandemic were to hit, I can like survive for, like X amount of months and like kind of like get by.
Yeah.
And so with a mix of, yeah, so with like a mix of and like,
There was
there was,
a bit of preparation.
yeah, there was, yeah, like I had oddly prepared myself for it, with a mix of like some of the bands like helping out some of the crew members, like, hey, like we can give you like half of your rate for the next like 6 weeks because we just applied for this like government fund program, because like as a company we can like, the government is giving us money to pay our employees to get by. And so like I had some spurts of that mixed in with me saving up money, mixed in with some like work here and there, like be it a music video or just like a random photo shoot. And honestly, like that's gotten me by. Like I've been okay, like getting through that, which I don't know how, man, but I've,
That's amazing.
I've
That's
been
the
able to do it.
goal,
So
honestly,
yeah.
is to like just be able to have it like support itself. So you and I went to UT together and we graduated the same year, I think, 2017.
Yep.
And since then, we worked together one time after we graduated, and it was like you said, a while after graduation.
That was definitely over. It was a year and like 4 months since we had graduated to that show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's quite a bit of time when you're living in it. But when looking back, like that honestly was pretty quick. I'm sure that there was like some sense of maybe you felt this, maybe you didn't, but you kind of touched on it a little, that you felt maybe a little bit of um, frustration or stress, just like thinking about like when is this going to happen? And really, like I think a year is not bad. But like, in hindsight, it's not bad. But when you're living in it, you're like, when, like it could be a lot more than that. But
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy. And that is, you say it's lucky, but I really am of the mindset that you don't get lucky unless like you put the work in first. Like if you put the work in, you could get lucky. But if you don't put the work in, like there's no chance. So it's like you
Yeah.
did, sure, maybe you got a little lucky with I think you had shared that story of on your YouTube of you sneaking into a South by show for Robert DeLong, even though you don't condone
Yeah.
sneaking in. It just, y'all had met before that
Yeah.
once. But he was nice enough to bring you into the show and like, vouch for you at the door. So that's really cool.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you hadn't grinded, taking those videos of Robert for free before even getting a chance to meet with him, having any sort of written like contract or anything, like you took those videos, you edited them, I'm sure you worked your heart out on that on those because all your work is seems like you put a lot of thought into it. You've definitely developed like a style that I would say is unique to you, and it's a very like I think self-described you on your website is like realist, or I think that's the correct word. I don't know if you can maybe correct me on that.
Yeah, it was it's funny. I didn't write my bio.
You did.
It was Jade wrote it for me.
Oh, what? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great
And it's
bio.
funny. It's funny because like she didn't even write her own name and there's some of the people that I worked with and
Mm,
I was like, why don't you put
so
you on
humble.
there? And she was like, no, dude, like put like the big, just keep like the big names on there. And I was like, oh man, I was like, you're a big name. And she's like,
Jade's all
dude,
over
stop.
Austin
Like,
radio. At least in Austin,
yeah.
like she's on the radio quite a bit, which is
Oh, dude,
awesome.
she's all over the radio here.
Yeah, after that show, we like really jammed out to her for like a solid few months, like exclusively Jade Bird.
Hell
So
yeah.
thanks for bringing me to that. That was like a new discovery for me.
Yeah. It's what did I write? Oh, hype known for a colorful, hyper real style.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay, maybe not
I
self-described then.
was trying to think.
Jade Bird described.
Yeah,
How would you
exactly.
describe
As I
yourself?
did. How would I describe my style?
Yeah,
With
with video
photo and video?
editing. Well, would you change? I think it's changed. I don't know if you feel like it's changed a little bit.
As far as let's see, as far as like the video stuff goes, yeah, I think it's definitely like I think I've gotten better at like doing like narrative stuff. Like I don't know if you saw I like made this like it was like a 20-minute video of the AJR tour that I had in September. And it's like I think that is actually like my full out, that is my best work. Like that is the best video that I've ever
Oh,
worked
okay.
on. Um I'll have to send it to you. But yeah, I guess like before that it was yeah, I don't know. It's weird because like I was so focused on like making these like quote unquote Instagram banger videos of like 30-second video and like make it crazy and then done.
Yeah.
And then the more I was doing that, the more I was getting bored with it. And I was like, I think I just want to like have like just like I want to make more like just doc stuff, like really nice looking doc like videos of just literally like what the band like on the road or whatever and
Let it breathe a
yeah
little more and just like
yeah
listen in a little more like a fly on the wall type
yeah
of
yeah
feel.
exactly
Mhm.
yeah and as far as like the photos go I think I've definitely improved on like it's weird because like I always like people are like will be like oh like can you take like a really nice like picture of me or whatever and I still get scared of doing portrait photography because I don't know anything about portrait photography. I didn't learn through portrait photography. The only thing that I'm like so comfortably good at is concert photography because that was the one style of photography that like I had like taught myself how to do and shoot. But as of recently, I think I feel like I've gotten a lot better
Mm,
at what's it called? Portrait photography.
right. And your
Yeah, so
startup cost was you started with your T3i, right? And you use that for
yeah,
both photo and video.
yeah, yep.
That's
And then
awesome. And
and
that
then I
camera, how much does that run for today? I'll find out later.
a
Yeah,
T3i
yeah.
nowadays
It's
probably like I
like
don't even think
six
$100.
hundred, I think. No, I'm thinking, no, maybe I could be wrong. I might be
A
mistaking it.
T3i?
Yeah, I might be
I mean,
mistaking it.
when I bought the T3i, I think I bought it new for like $800. Like I
Mm,
remember it being a really expensive like or maybe like 6 or 700. I don't remember. I remember
mm.
I put all my Baskin Robbins money into it when I was in high school. And then I had that all throughout UT. And then once I graduated, dude, I had no money. I just had nothing. And like I remember I literally went through my credit card. I think I had like like $500 or $600 in like my checking account, and then I had like, no, yeah, that was it, like $500 or $600 in my checking account, and I went and got my credit card, put $1,000, and got like a 5D Mark III, but it was like beat to shit. Like there was just stuff off of it. It was all scratched and beat up, and I put 1,000 on that, and then I put the rest of the 500 because it was like $1,500, and then I put the rest of the $500 on like my debit card, and then I had like $100 left in my bank account, and I was like, cool, like I'm gonna have to use this for everything. And I just bought like a 50mm prime, and like I
Yeah.
was like, this is all I got.
Yeah.
And I
Even when
used,
you go for like the like quote unquote amateur stuff, like it's a lot of money. It really,
yeah,
really is. So yeah, I think but you got started with something that was like relatively budget at the time. Um,
yeah,
and since then you've upgraded. I think are you still on an A7 and a Canon 5D Mark IV or
yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right. Yep, I use more so. I use the Sony A7R4 for like everything because it's just so good. It's that camera just. I like that camera is cheating. Is genuinely cheating.
yeah.
It's so the
How
autofocus
many
is so quick.
megapixel? Like the image size is
It's
so massive. Like you can make billboards with that thing.
yeah, it's literally dude, I think it's like a 64 megapixel like
Yeah,
camera.
I think you're
Like, cause
right.
I know it's like double the size, the double of like what a Canon 5D Mark IV is. Yeah, when I use that camera and I take like, you know, 1,500 photos a night or whatever, and I
Yeah,
dump it, it's like, I think it's like 60 or 70 gigs of worth of pictures.
that's a ton for images. That's
Yeah, because each image is like, I think each image is almost like 100 megabytes,
yeah,
which is a lot. Like
yeah,
you're you're
yeah.
you're
It
one
stacks
tenth of a
up.
gig.
Yeah,
Like 1/10 of a gig for a picture, for one picture, which is
yeah.
insane,
Oh my
dude. It's
gosh,
so
what
crazy.
is what's media storage like? Because you would probably fill up like most like 1 terabyte hard drives within
I
like, especially
go,
if you're doing
bro.
video too.
I go through, yeah, because I'll dump at least 100 gigs a night.
Okay.
80 to 100 if I had to ballpark it.
So
If it's
you'll
a
run
show
through a
that's
drive in like 2 weeks.
I I'll run through a 2 terabyte hard drive in like a week and a half, like 10 days.
Mm,
And then I'll have to get another one for like a backup. So I'll have two I'll have 2 terabyte hard drives on me. Because I'll try to like back it up like that night. Because I'm really bad with backing up my stuff, but I'll try to back it up that night. I'll try to be really consistent with it. But yeah, by like the eighth or ninth day, I'll have like 200 gigs left on a hard drive. And I'm like, all right, like I stop at 200 because I've had some really bad issues of like if you fill up, at least in my experience, like because I'll use like the orange lacy hard drives or whatever. If I fill up the whole thing and I try to edit off of that hard drive when it has like 5
it's so
gigs of
slow.
space left, it's so slow. It stops. Transferring anything into it or out of it is is absolute hell. And so I've learned, I'm like, from now on, I stop at 200 and I'm gonna give it more than enough room.
Mhm.
So technically I'm really only using like, a terabyte and a half worth of like space, and then I really try to leave myself a lot of room because there was one tour where like I filled it up, and I was trying to edit a video off of it, and I was like, this is too slow, and I was trying to get footage off of it,
Yeah.
and I remember it said like ETA like 3 or 4 hours when I was trying to take off like not even like 20 or 30 gigs off of it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm done with this. Like I've learned my lesson. So dude, yeah, I think in my room, I know I have at least 40 hard drives, 40 external hard drives.
Do you travel with all 40?
No, no,
Okay.
I've got them all like, because I started out with like the WD hard drives or whatever, like that
Yeah.
brand is like, which is like fine. At the time, I just bought the cheapest hard drive because I
Right.
didn't know that I could expense that out to the
Mm,
band because like
mm.
they'll pay for it because essentially like
They can write that off. It's equipment for them.
that's okay. So that's another thing that like to answer your question earlier, like on top of like per diem and like Ubers, whatever. If I need something like for the tour, like if and I mean I can't use like a new camera or whatever, like
Yeah.
but like an external hard drive, like, hey guys, I'm gonna need like 8 terabytes worth of storage for this
Hmm.
tour. I'll go buy them. I'll go spend like $200 or $300 on them, and then I'll give it to them like, hey, you have to like pay for it, and then they'll pay me for the footage, and
Right.
then it like depending on like whatever you know whatever you I don't want to say contract because I've only ever signed one contract, actually no, two contracts, but whatever like arrangement that you make with the band, like whether like you own it or like they own it or whatever, like for the most part it's like, yeah, they're gonna just pay for the space, and then you're like, okay, cool, and you go to Best Buy and you drop
Yeah.
like it's a great feeling going to Best Buy just dropping $300 knowing like I don't have to pay for this, like I could just use all the space.
I feel that. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that with my big boy job. I got a company card and I use that for travel. Same thing. So like
Yeah.
food, Ubers, sometimes door dashing if like I don't get a rental car or something. Um,
Mhm.
but but yeah, it's kind of a nice feeling. I definitely don't abuse it, but it's like good to know that help is there and don't have to like starve or anything, like for
Yeah.
the sake of like not spending money.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's awesome. I feel like there's so much that like that I want to know, so much more that I'd like to know, but I don't want to take up more of your time. We're getting close to like an hour here.
Okay.
But I really appreciate you joining and sharing your experiences. I think we got kind of deep in there. Talked about your family a little bit and all
Yeah.
that. So so that's nice. Thanks so much for opening up. I really appreciate that.
Dude, yeah, dude, of course. And like, it really is like I really like talking about this kind of stuff, like especially like when it comes to like the technicalities of like, like do you get this written off or like
Mhm.
can you actually sustain yourself? Like things like that. Like I love like, because I used to be like really scared about talking about that stuff because like I just never knew what to say. But now like I'm gonna be 28 this year. I don't care anymore. And like I'm more than happy to talk about this kind of stuff.
What's your birthday?
October.
Okay, October.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
um
That is coming up. I just turned 27 in December.
okay.
So that's, yeah, I think we're on the same boat here. It definitely feels the same way. And I think that with the way that everything in labor and like the economy and everything's going, like people are more open about talking numbers because
Mhm.
overall it helps everybody decide like, if everybody in the community raises their rates at the same time, it's not going to be, people are going to pay it because that's what the rate is. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially in freelancing and stuff like that. Like, people will often try to go to the next person who can offer the least.
Yeah. Yeah. And um I also like, oh, I don't know if this is too late to bring up, but like one thing that when we were talking about earlier about how you and I like really wanted to get into the music side of things
Yeah.
at UT, and like there was really only a handful of us that wanted to do that, and like a lot of the kids at RTF wanted to be directors and screenwriters, et cetera, et cetera. I remember taking a class and it was called Films of Clint Eastwood.
I didn't
And
even
I
know that was a
remember,
class.
yeah, it was with Professor oh man, he was married to
To
I think
the
her name
editing
was,
teacher, to the editing professor.
yeah, Coker, I think was her.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he was married to her, and like he was like the main guy who did like 317 or whatever, or
Right. I
304.
literally, it's so funny that
Yeah.
I literally was just talking to somebody, I think yesterday, where we were talking about that same professor. And like, we couldn't for
Yeah.
the life of us remember his name, which is crazy because like so many people took his class. And like, I had like
Yeah,
two classes
yeah,
with him.
couldn't remember his name,
Oh
but
man, I'm gonna kick
he was
myself in the
he
butt.
was teaching. Yeah, he was teaching a class that was like, dude, there was like 12 of us in that class, and it was films of Clint Eastwood. There was a couple of kids in that class. I'm trying to remember, like Alex Winker was in that class, and there was who else was in that class? I can't remember. Oh, this one guy like John, whatever. He's kind of a weird dude. He was like he owned like a red camera or whatever. It was like John
Okay.
something. What?
I said, okay. No, I don't.
Yeah,
The only
he
person I knew
he
that had a red was Alec Pluth.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was like John something. I forget like who he was, but he was like a super rich kid. Anyway, I remember the first day of that class, the professor was like made everybody stand up and like say hey, my name's Austin, and like he would say like, hey, like tell us your name and tell us like what you want to do in the industry, like and be specific. Like don't just say you want to make movies. Like
Mm.
tell me what specifically. Like if you want to gaff, if you want to be an
Hmm.
assistant, like tell me exactly what you want to do. Which I thought was really cool. And I remember I was like one of the last ones to go, and I remember like everybody standing up and saying like, "Hey, like my name's so and so, like I really want to do this," and it was all like the same thing. Like
Hmm.
I want to DP, I want to write, I want to direct, I want to DP, I want to DP, and then it came to like the last row, and then like Alex Winker stood up and he's like, "I want to be a colorist," and
Yeah.
then I stood up and I was like, I want to work with musicians." And I remember the professor got really excited. He was like, wow, like I love those last two answers. He's like, everybody, like that's awesome that you guys want to direct. He's like, you want to be a colorist. He's like, and you want to work in the music industry? I was like, yeah, like I want to make videos for people on the road. And I remember he was like blown away by it. He was like, wow, like I didn't even know you could do that. Like that's so cool that you found a specific avenue. And he went on like a 20-minute tangent trying to like get the class going. He's like, you see guys, like I'm
Yes.
happy that you guys want to be a directors, but like it's if you find a very specific thing like in our world, like go for it, like create your own job and this and this. And I just remember like um I remember sitting next to Alex, and I haven't spoken to Alex Winker in a really long time, but I think he's doing well because he's coloring like a bunch of like big stuff now. But I remember sitting
Coloring.
next to him. Like, what?
Coloring. Great. Still coloring. Awesome.
He literally is coloring. And it's crazy because like I knew that kid in high school, and like we didn't even go to the same high school. We ended up in the same place. But I remember him and I like sitting next to each other, being like really excited because we were like we both knew like wow, like this is kind of cool that you and I know what we want to do, and it's a very specific thing, and like I don't know, it's just like it felt kind of original and like cool. Like we want to do something very specific, and we have like goals,
Mhm.
and everyone else is just like very like, oh, I want to like write an indie movie. And it's like, of course, everybody wants to do that.
Yeah,
But
it's not
like,
to
be
say that you
realistic.
still
Like, what do
can't
you?
either if you wanted to,
Yeah,
but like you've definitely like have developed more of an expertise which can then inform your project. You got
yeah,
to have other experiences before you can do that. I think
yeah,
that was
exactly.
nice.
But yeah, so I wanted to like bring that up because I always thought that was like a really because I think back to that moment sometimes. I'm like, I'm really glad like I stuck with that answer because a part of me was like, yeah, I guess I want to just direct and shoot. And like I was like, no, I should be honest. Like I want to tell people like what I want to do. And like that's just the truth. Like I want to work with musicians and like like make music videos, like make tour docs. Like I don't know, like just sounds like
Yeah.
fun to me. But yeah.
No, totally. I totally feel that. And I felt the same way. That professor definitely had that like reputation of going on tangents. And I loved it, honestly, because they were always so passionate.
Yeah. It was
um
like I think it started with an S, like Professor Shar. Was that it? Or Schattenstein?
your shots.
Schatz.
It was like shots,
Shots with a
but it's spelled
Z
like
or something.
shats, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
I think you're right. I
Wow.
gotta,
I
yeah,
wonder how he's
but
doing.
yeah, double check that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah, I hope he's doing well. I mean, yeah, what's crazy? Okay, so the person I was talking to about specifically Professor Schatz and Karen Coker. No,
Yeah.
is that right? Or just
Yeah.
Karen?
Karen Coker.
No, we have a. I don't remember if it's okay. Well,
Yeah,
Professor
it was
Karen.
like Kocher.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
The person I was talking to about that actually graduated UT in 2006,
Oh,
or
wow. Holy crap.
2004 or something. So like they've been,
Wow.
yeah, and I'm sure they have quite a bit of a time there at the university. So wonder how many other people they've inspired this way. But yeah, they're awesome, for sure. I had actually two last questions, if that's okay, about I
Okay.
think specifically
Yeah.
college. First of
Yeah.
all, obviously, like how much do you think going to college like hurt or helped you in doing concert stuff or video working with
That's
musicians?
That's a great question. It hurt me a lot and it also really helped me. I think to be honest, man, if I wasn't in school, I think I would have been able to get in a lot quicker of like where I am
Did you already
because
know you wanted to do that?
yeah. And I'm like I also wanted to go to UT. Like that
Mm,
school specifically like was a dream. And like I didn't get in anywhere after high school. I didn't have the grades to get in anywhere. And so I went to, community college and I worked like two jobs while I was in school and like worked really hard. And I didn't even get into the RTF program when I transferred in, and I had like a 3.9 GPA, and I had to do like the whole internal transfer process, which is
mm.
so hard.
A bunch of work, yeah. And most of the people that
Yeah,
transferred in to RTF, by the way, I think are like some of the hardest working like creatives that I've met.
yeah, because we had to work so much harder. And like, dude, to be honest, I was only in RTF I was only in RTF for 3.5 semesters, which is crazy to think about. Because
Okay.
like by the time I got in, I was like a junior, and I didn't start until the spring semester of my junior year, and then I took summer classes to try to speed it up. But anyway,
No, you and I have that in
uh,
common as well. I joined RTF my junior year too,
oh,
but
I
I
didn't know
didn't
that.
transfer from outside. I transferred from internally from advertising.
Oh, word.
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it was hard catching up
Oh,
for sure.
dude, yeah, it's because like everybody already knows each other from like freshman year, and you're just kind of coming in like, and you're taking like 308 and
Never helped the
318
camera in
with
my
all these
case.
freshmen. Yeah, I'm just like, oh man, like this kind of sucks. But yeah, if it helped me and hurt me. So it definitely hurt me in the aspect of like, I think if I just didn't go to school and I sat in Austin and just relied on South by Southwest, or if I had moved my ass to LA and just relied on pure hustle, I think I could have gotten in earlier. But I focused like all of my classes at UT because I knew I was like, I love editing so much and I love post production. And if touring doesn't work, I thought to myself, what is a reliable job in this field that like that can sustain like a life? And I thought like editors, like you've got like visual effect editors, you've got like just like regular like just editing in general. And so I put all of my focus on post-production classes. So like I did like beginner and advanced editing, like beginner and advanced like VFX, like beginner to like audio production, like things like that. There was definitely a lot of things that I took away from those classes that I still use today. And just like a lot of like theoretical editing too. Like I took advanced editing with Ann Lewis, and like that blew me away. Like I was so excited to go to class, like and just like hear her talk and hear what she had to say. And so that aspect of like those editing classes definitely helped me a lot. And then yeah, like I know that if I didn't go to school, I would just be hustling, and I think I could have gotten in quicker. So
Mm.
it's a yes and a no to that question of whether it hurt and helped
Mhm.
me.
Did you feel like making connections at UT was like a big part of that, or like how many people do you still like talk to from college? No, that
Dude,
wasn't a big part of
I
that.
didn't make any connection at UT. I like because like nobody wanted to do music stuff, and like everybody,
We
I don't know
didn't
if
talk during
you
college. It's crazy.
what
No, we didn't talk during college. We like never
I
took the same
know.
class.
I know, and it makes me
Um,
sad. Like I wish we were friends and during like RTF, because I feel like you and I would have been able to like, oh dude, yeah, let's go do a music, like let's
it's
go
too late
find some.
now.
Yeah.
It's way too
Yeah.
late now.
I don't know if you like saw this, but there were definitely some heavy clicks
Oh
in like
yeah, certainly.
the RTF program. I remember hanging out with them and I remember like wanting to like wanting to hang out with them because they were just all like so cool and fun to hang out with. And then I realized I was like, these guys like don't want to do anything. Or at least like some of like half of them like just wanted to like socialize. Like it wasn't like actually like a thing if they wanted to like work on stuff. And I remember really being turned off by that. I'm like, like you guys don't want to like do anything. Like you guys aren't passionate about like if you're passionate about sound, like why aren't you trying to
Hmm.
like why aren't you working on a project of your own? Like that never made sense to me.
Hmm.
And so dude, yeah, as far as like RTF goes, like I kind of like there was only like a few friends that like I like had made and like had really like worked with that like were really passionate about doing stuff. The only person that made it out of RTF that I still work with today is David Perella.
That's awesome.
Like him and
David
I
was
like
my little in DKA. We were in
no way.
yeah, that's Cinematic Society now. They
Yeah.
rebranded. But
Oh,
yeah,
sick.
he was yeah, David was my little I love David. I remember he hit me up
David's
when he
great.
moved to LA to see if I would like move out there with him. And I was like, I was this close, but I just couldn't bring myself to do that. Just because I think I'd got a dog at that point and like I lived with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Anyways, like all of it can also be seen as excuses, but I legitimately love living in Austin. So it's
Yeah.
like I couldn't bring myself to moving.
Yeah.
Like for
Yeah.
what? Like I don't know. I was working happily here, and I had time on the side to like work on my own projects. So that's ultimately what I wanted to do. I was afraid like if I stepped into the grind of like just nonstop working as in G&E, like that's all I would do, and I didn't really want to stay in that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. Like, dude, I mean, like, I'm happy that you recognize like what you want and you stayed in Austin and you didn't, make like that huge like because that would have been life changing, moving
Oh,
out to LA and
100%.
all that good stuff. But yeah, he's like David's like the one guy that I kept like we talk if not like a weekly bit like definitely like a monthly basis like I'll because I've tried to get him in on so many projects that like didn't quite go through. Like there was like some Jade Bird and some Robert Delong music videos that I was gonna do, and like they ended up falling through just because of budget stuff. And I was gonna have him come on board and shoot everything for me. But we're doing something in like 3 weeks or so
No.
for another music video. I don't know for dude if we're shooting it at Austin, then you're definitely coming on board and
Is it a Sad Cops
hang out.
music video?
Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Yeah, it
Awesome. That's
literally
great
is.
that you're still shooting music videos for those guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, so they kind of quit as a band, and now like they're like one of their songs like that we did a music video to got like 1 million streams on Spotify, and like they're starting to like resurface like on
Mm.
Spotify for some reason, and so the band had kind of gotten back together and like they had made some new music, which is really good. And now we all have like I had gotten the lead singer of Sad Cops in as the guitarist for Jade's band. And so now we've been able to sort of circulate some even better connections. So now we feel like if we get the band together and we start and we push out new music and like a new music video, we feel hopeful that like we can actually get the band like signed and like it
Mm.
become like a real thing and not like a local band.
Mm.
So we're crossing our fingers and we're hoping like if we just go into it and just make a beautiful like music video with like no
Yeah.
money, like we're hoping that like we can sort of get them on the map. But
Yeah, I think that that might have to do with what I kind of think is a little bit of the direction of like rock music in music. Like for a bit, it like took definitely a backseat. Like it just disappeared off headlines mostly. And but artists like Machine Gun Kelly, 21 Pilots, even Post Malone, like it kind of
yeah.
brought rock mixed in. There's a lot more genre blending happening in music in general, and a
Mhm.
lot more artists are bringing in like rock into like the mainstream, and that I hope that maybe that leads into like separating the mentality that like pop punk and like indie rock and stuff like that is like an old thing, and like allow it to like have new life, and hopefully that's what's going on.
Yeah, they're definitely like doing more of like a pop rock genre like, nowadays, because there used to be primarily just like an emo band just like in Denton, but now they're doing a lot more like, not like mainstream, but like more like they're appealing to like a wider audience. So yeah, I'll let you know if because we haven't fully decided if we're gonna shoot the whole thing in Dallas or Austin yet. But I mean, if you want to come to Dallas, dude, you're
I
more
would
welcome to. But
love
if
to
we're
hang
gonna,
out. Yeah, I'd love to see David
then
again.
dude, yeah, then come out and then help us with it. Like that'd
Sweet,
be
well, we'll do
that'd be
it.
awesome. It's just, yeah, it's definitely like a passion thing. Like we're all like, I'm definitely like, we're all kind of putting like our money into it. Like we're
Mhm.
having like, I told David, I was like, dude, like, do you want to fly out and do this? And he's like, hell yeah, like I'm down. Like let's go make a beautiful video. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Like,
Hell yeah. Yeah,
um,
y'all made Favorite Colors Blue together for Robert
yeah.
DeLong on the UT campus, I think. Maybe.
Oh yeah, we did. Or that was that. Where did we do that? We did a like
Was
at a,
that
like a
a different
really,
studio?
yeah. It was
Oh,
the
okay.
Arturo studio or something like that. It was like a really
Oh,
small studio.
Aduro.
Yeah, Arturo. Yeah. That's where we did it.
They have
I think.
they have a huge stage now. They have a pretty medium-sized stage. I think it's really solid. I don't know if it I don't think they built it when y'all worked there. I think it might be a new thing.
Yeah,
Um,
when I was there, it was just a really tiny, green screen, like,
yeah.
half like, like 14-foot tall, like, wall or whatever. And
No, Duro's got some good space. I worked on I gapped Missio series of videos for Zach
oh
Morrison
cool.
there last summer, and they've got I think it was last summer. They've got like all the sky panels along the ceiling, and it's pretty big. I don't know exactly the dimensions, like, but yeah,
Yeah.
they got a great space now, and they're a huge like rental house too. So
They were really nice when we worked there for like the 3 hours that we were there. But yeah.
well, what's your plans for the rest of the day?
Probably clean up this house a little bit because I left a little bit of a mess last night, and I got nothing going on today, man.
Hey, you're crashing, man. You gotta take care of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks again for your time. Thanks for helping out. It was a pleasure. It
Dude,
really was. I'm like so happy that we got to talk.
dude, yeah, I know. This is awesome. I had a blast. I'm so glad we got to hang out and talk and just catch up.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, take it easy.
See you, man.